Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for your attention today. As mentioned there, I'm going to give a short kind of overview of the Heritage Officer Network, the work we do generally, and then I'll talk about what we can do to support you for your Heritage Week events. And also, I just have maybe some thoughts or ideas that I thought might be useful. I'm going to just put a timer on to stick to time because that is not my forte. There we go. So basically, there is a heritage officer in every county in Ireland. We come from a very broad range of skills and backgrounds, and collectively it represents an incredible network of professional officers in the local authority sector that provide advice both within the local authority and, of course, to groups outside. And along with the emerging biodiversity officer network, it's a formidable body of professionals within the system of great significance, in my view. So as I said, there's one in every county in Ireland, with two each in Cork and Galway, representing the city and county councils. And there are four in Dublin, representing the four Dublin local authorities. So the kind of work that we engage in varies dramatically from county to county. Primarily, we all deal with the development and implementation of the County Heritage Plan. And the County Heritage Plan is a document that basically sets out the local authorities' vision, goals and objectives, and most importantly, actions for heritage in a county for delivery over a time frame, usually 5 years. And they are both created and implemented in collaboration with other professional officers in the local authority, but most importantly, with professional groups and bodies and community groups in the county itself. So it's a really, really important document, and it's one that you really should be familiar with in each of your counties. We're there to provide advice, both strategic advice internally to council departments on various different initiatives and programs, but also to community groups. A lot of the work we would do would be providing advice on, say, strategic infrastructure, housing developments for planning, and projects that may impact on the built and natural heritage. We're also involved in community engagement by encouraging community participation, but also providing, doing projects ourselves that engender and foster community participation. And we also support and develop projects that provide a sense of place and belonging for all. We are also involved in community archaeology programs, and this is a program that has been established by the Heritage Council in recent years. And there are community archaeology programs happening annually in both Dublin City, Fingal, Dunleary Rathdown and South County Dublin have partnered. They're in Carlow, Clare, Galway, Donegal, Kerry, Roscommon, Sligo and Wicklow. And here in DCC, our community archaeology project is based in St Anne's Park, and we're in our 4th year excavating and uncovering the old mansion of St Anne's that was unfortunately burnt out in the mid-20th century. Also part of our work is to undergo data collection and research. So that is usually through survey. And in Dublin, we've done a huge number of surveys. We have surveyed primarily in the built and archaeological heritage. And we have published those surveys through traditional publications, but also disseminating through seminars, training courses and workshops. We also engage in publications, which is really the most traditional and principal way to disseminate heritage information. And through the Heritage Plan, we support research conducted by professionals, study groups, and recognised programmes, such as in Dublin, the Medieval Dublin series, that is the proceedings of the Medieval Dublin Symposium, organised by the Friends of Medieval Dublin, the Irish Historic Towns Atlas Dublin series, the Buildings of Ireland Charitable Trust, which is an All-Ireland a charity that engages in publications of architectural heritage. The most recent one, the one that we're supporting, is for Dublin City and County. So it's Dublin City outside the canals and the county, and that will hopefully be published in the next few years. We also sometimes engage in PR, both basically officially within the local authority on a range of matters, but also within, obviously, the whole heritage realm. And then, of course, we do public consultation. So we do public consultation in the development of our heritage plans, but also we support both the councils and also government departments in public consultation. So for Heritage Ireland 2030, we were a key, we were instrumental in the public consultation for that. But also we engaged in consultation for other initiatives, including conservation plans, the development plan, as I said, the National Biodiversity Data Plan, and also the Built Heritage Advice Series. So we're quite involved and engaged in a whole range of areas in terms of consultation. And by gathering data and in the above-mentioned areas of work, we're informing strategies, policies, and projects at national and regional level. So programs run by the Heritage Council, there's obviously the Heritage Plan, which I've described already. In Dublin, our plan has 3 pillars. It's archaeology, built heritage, and cultural heritage. As mentioned by Lorraine, there's the biodiversity plan that she undertakes, and we're basically sister plans and sit and work well together. In the Dublin City Strategic Heritage Plan, we have 6 strategic goals. Our primary goal is for our work to be community-led and locally focused, to make room for diverse voices, to create knowledge, to provide access to knowledge, to engage in heritage management, and to communicate heritage. So under those 6 strategic goals, Dublin City Council implements an annual heritage plan that is part funded by the Heritage Council. So we also are involved in and run projects related to the Irish Walled Towns Network, and that's a network of 32 towns in Ireland that are participating in who are united to and coordinate. So who have been united to kind of coordinate strategic efforts of the local authority in both the management, conservation and enhancement of historic walled towns in Ireland, both north and south, helping to make Ireland's walled towns become great places in which to live, work and visit. Through the IWTN, there is advice, training and knowledge sharing, grants for conservation and interpretation of walled towns. So it's an extremely important initiative of the Heritage Councils. There's also the Heritage Council's Historic Towns Initiative, which was established in 2018 as a partnership between the Council and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. And so far, 32 towns in Ireland have benefited so far from this grant scheme. And they range from Listowel and Kerry to Ramelton in Donegal. And of course, there's National Heritage Week, which we're here to discuss today. And since 2020, there's the Community Monuments Fund, which is probably one of the most significant kind of funding programs out there, which was established by the National Monument Service. And basically, in most counties, heritage officers administer this scheme. Funding is prioritised for local authorities, also private owners, and custodians and community groups for the care, conservation, maintenance, protection and promotion of archaeological monuments. And in 2024, the fund is €7 million. There's also the kind of dwindling of there's the Decade of Centenaries, which is now coming to a conclusion. And of course, that basically was providing opportunities to explore and connect with specific events around the revolutionary period between 2012 and between 1912 and 1923, and looking to see how those can be kind of enhanced or at least made better understood, and to foster a deep understanding of how the events of that revolutionary decade have shaped our identity and our culture. And then finally, there's the Creative Ireland programme, which is another initiative that heritage officers are involved in, either through the Creative Ireland teams or directly running the programmes themselves. And through the Creative Ireland programme, basically, it is an all-Ireland government programme to foster a culture and well-being programme that inspires and transforms people, place and communities through creativity. And where architectural conservation offers do not exist in local authorities, heritage officers also administer the Built Heritage Investment Scheme and the Historic Structures Fund grant programs for protected structures and for structures located in architectural conservation areas. And of course, there's the Town and Village Renewal Scheme, heritage officers in many counties support the delivery of this scheme. It's a cross-government policy which aims to tackle vacancy, combat dereliction and breathe new life into our town centres, and to help them achieve the town centre first policy goals. Jumping on. Right, so if you want to know more about the work of heritage officers, this is a really important document that was published in December by the Heritage Council. It sets out a range of projects delivered by the Heritage Officer Network over the last 3 years. And the kind of projects showcase demonstrate the impact and benefit of those projects in terms of social cohesion, community participation, heritage-led regeneration and conservation, and an increased access to heritage. It's available from the Heritage Council website. You can just do a simple Google, or if you're fancy, you can scan the QR code that's there. But to give you just a very brief flavour of some of the initiatives, I just picked out 4. One is the Hastings Farmhouse in Clare. It's a 19th century vernacular farmhouse with tangible links to the War of Independence and locally prominent family, the Hastings. And since 2012, Duggan na Shuna, which is a local group, have been undertaking initiatives to preserve this farmhouse and its social history. Some of the work they've done include cob building workshops, where they found actually that part of the building was a cob structure, and that which is very rare for Clare apparently, but also they're engaged in events and storytelling initiatives. There's the Heritage of County Cork publication series, which is really a vast body of work that is delivered in partnership between the Heritage Officer, the Conservation Officer, and the County Archaeologist in Cork County. And through that series, they have published books on industrial heritage, the bridges of Cork, the houses of Cork, towns and villages of Cork, artefacts of Cork, centenary sites in Cork, archaeology of Cork, the castles, churches, and also even European links in Cork. And these books are all available online as PDFs or in the flesh. And really, it's an edited series of contributions from academic experts. There's the Ballyshannon Historic Towns Initiative in Donegal, which was established in partnership between Donegal County Council, Ballyshannon Regeneration Group, Daedalus Architecture in 2021, and also, of course, the property owners. And between 2021 and 2022, 19 protected structures in this 17th century town benefited from a range of improvements, including structural repairs, roof repairs and chimney repairs, window repairs, shop fronts and railings also got dealt with. And it's really an excellent project and is also award-winning. And and just at the very right of the screen then there's the Duggan Dramana. This is a 46-acre headland in North County Dublin that features both a 19th century Martello Tower and an Iron Age promontory fort. And it was acquired by Fingal County Council in 2016. And a conservation and management plan was developed. And as an action of that, a multi-phased, community-based research excavation was commenced in 2018. It was conducted under archaeological licence and under the direction of the Heritage Officer. And close to 100 volunteers each year, ranging in age between 18 and 80, have participated each season in the revealing of the extraordinary rich archaeology of this site. Now, I'm not going to go into this one too much, but if you want to know more about the work we do in Dublin City and the work of the Heritage Officer, this is a sort of a highlights document that we published in 2021 as part of the development of the new Strategic Heritage Plan for the city. There's 23 projects highlighted in this book, ranging from 2002 all the way up to 2021. And as I mentioned earlier, the work that I engage in is usually categorised under archaeology, architecture, and cultural heritage. And it's available for basically on our website. But just one project two projects really that I'm showcasing here. One is the Henrietta Street Conservation Plan, which was developed with grant funding from the Heritage Council. And through this plan, then one of its key actions was for Henrietta Street was to tackle the dereliction of two particular houses in the street, one of which was 14 Henrietta Street. And again, with Heritage Council funding, we initiated a phased conservation process. First, rescuing the house from demolition, basically, or collapse. It was the house was approaching collapse by 2007. We did emergency stabilization works to prevent that from getting any worse. And then we undertook, in the second phase of work, to make the building weathertight and to reinstate, believe it or not, 36 windows and doors. And then between 2015 and 2018, we developed the 14 Henrietta Street Museum project. And so that is a key flagship project of Dublin City Council, emanating from this conservation plan and from that core funding provided by the Heritage Council in 2006. And then on the very right-hand side, you will see just reference to a series of books that we have published on Dublin's 20th century architecture. And so we have published our final volume in November of last year. So volume 1 was published in 2016 and deals with the period of 1900 to 1940. Volume 2 looks at 1940 to 1973, and volume 3 then looks at from 1974 all the way up to 1999. And through that project, we have identified over 335 sites of architectural, cultural, artistic or social interest in Dublin. And from that list then we have also identified, we have undertaken new professional research and survey of 93 of those sites. And those are published as essays in this book. And as the title says, it's called More Than Concrete Blocks. We are looking beyond the architecture at the social, cultural and economic reality surrounding the original development of those buildings. So now on to some Heritage Week supports. So I just decided to do a quick deep dive into the figures for Dublin City last year. So what is interesting is that there were 79 kind of registrations for Dublin City last year. I've taken out one that was actually for another county that was accidentally put in on Dublin. And I suppose what is interesting when you just kind of crunch the numbers a bit is that really we're blessed in Dublin that we have so many museums and galleries and cultural institutions. And it's no surprise then that over 40% of the events registered and programmed were by our libraries, museums, national cultural institutions, galleries and academic institutions. And then community groups, voluntary sector, tidy towns, residents associations, and actually even individuals represents just over 17% of registrations. NGOs, specialist study groups, associations and professional bodies represents another 17%. State bodies and semi-state bodies and OPW visitor services represents just over 13%. And then faith-based organisations represents just over 8%. So it's interesting to see, and I think we'd be hoping to strongly encourage community groups and to grow that sector in developing projects and initiatives for Heritage Week. Of the events programmed, 68% fell under the category of cultural heritage, 28% built and archaeological heritage, and 3.5% natural heritage. And I suppose the low figure for natural heritage might be that Biodiversity Week, which is happening here in May, would probably be the main focus for people engaged in biodiversity and natural heritage activity. But we'd be very keen to see that area, that figure grow as well. And the kind of events then that were programmed in Dublin, so 48% were guided or specialist tours, 20% were training events or workshops, 14% was a talk, conference or reading, 12% an exhibition or display, 6% a live performance, reenactment or demonstration, and 2% a festival, show or a fair. 28% of the events took place outdoors, 70% took place indoors, and some of these are both indoors and outdoors, so that's why if you're wondering why the figures, they're not adding up, this is basically how the information is looking a bit skewed, and 9% of events took place online. So for I thought I would just mention another publication that I think is really inspiring document that was published with grant support from the Heritage Council by ICMOS Ireland in 2020. And it is called Other Stories, Cultural Heritage and Society. And I think it's really worth having a look at this book because it identifies a range of projects that have happened around Ireland and still happen around Ireland that embody the principles and of the Faro Convention. So for those of you who don't know, the Faro Convention is the Council of Europe Framework Convention on the Value of Cultural Heritage to Society. It is a frame of reference for heritage policy in member states that recognises the following: the right of all citizens to benefit from and contribute to cultural heritage and to have their cultural heritage respected, the responsibility of all citizens to respect the cultural heritage of others, the value of cultural heritage in improving quality of life for all citizens, and the contribution that heritage makes towards building a peaceful, democratic and sustainable society. Projects in this document include the really inspiring EXO project in Kilnaboy, County Clare, the Headford Lace project in County Galway, the Migrant Women's Shared Experience project in Mayo, Missling on the Tubber by the Cork Traveller Women's Network, the Clonmuckridge Song project in Wexford, and Be Urban here in Dublin. And I thought, as you're developing ideas for your projects for Heritage Week, that it might be worth just focusing very briefly on the lessons learned. That is a section in Other Stories. And so these are the kind of principles around developing collaborative projects. And this has come out of the research that was conducted by the Workhouse Union, who undertook the research project and produced the publication on behalf of the Heritage Council. So assets: build on the unique assets of your locality and team. Harness their knowledge, their passion and their skills. Action: making things happen is important. Allowing people to be involved is vital. Ambition: think big but start small. Start with something that feels manageable, then build from there. Awareness: get the word out. Build awareness of your project through word of mouth, social media and press. People often need help to communicate their projects in a clear and understandable way. Awards: recognition for projects is so important for ongoing enthusiasm and commitment, especially for those who put a huge voluntary effort into the project. So be alert for opportunities to promote your project, such as the Heritage Week Awards. There's collaboration. Listening and learning to work with others is complex, so be flexible. Cooperation. Working together with local authority and national organisations is key. Include experts and stakeholders or organisations as colleagues in the process. But do not let, I suppose I'm saying the quiet part out loud here, do not let bureaucracy hinder progress and enthusiasm. Strike a good balance. Creativity. Build on creative opportunities, take risks and experiment. Expectations. Good collaboration builds on shared and understood expectations. Encounter. Get people involved with your project through events, hands-on activities, or learning opportunities. Sometimes the most compelling projects are about things that have been forgotten or overlooked. So find the gaps and fill them, but leave gaps for others in the future. And finally, inclusion. Encourage and support voices that don't normally get heard in public life. So some supports then for Heritage Week that are available. And again, every local authority is different, so do check with your Heritage Officer and your Biodiversity Officer to see what they can do for you. But in the main, they will provide advice and guidance on planning events, scheduling events over the 9 days of Heritage Week. Also, if you needed further assistance in the Heritage Week portal, though in fairness, it's as user-friendly as you could possibly get. But also in some local authorities, they do provide funding for Heritage Week events and projects. So do check. And then, of course, there's the distribution of merchandise, which I'll get onto in a second. So each local authority is different, as I said, and funding Heritage Week grant schemes may be available in local authorities. But there's also possibly Creative Ireland and community grant schemes from your community development officers. So check with your local heritage officer for details on local supports. So media and promotion. So this is probably where most heritage officers will be of greatest value, in that some heritage officers produce local county guides and printed guides. Many have advertising in local press in the weeks leading up to Heritage Week. Some are involved in local radio campaigns or have designated airtime in advance of Heritage Week, and some promote events widely on social media. And we're planning to do a kind of a social media campaign. So please, after you've registered your events, do email us with any further information in Dublin City anyway. But perhaps do reach out to your other heritage officers as well. In terms of merchandise, so basically the Heritage Council, as you probably know, provide flags, bunting, t-shirts, high-vis vests, pencils, and other stuff that is really important to kind of brand and showcase Heritage Week and make people kind of show them where you are and where your event is taking place. And so heritage officers will provide or distribute Heritage Week merchandise to you on request. It's first come, first served. We ran out in Dublin City very quickly last year and had to try and find more material. But again, it's first come, first served by emailing heritage@dublincity.ie. Of course, if you're from outside Dublin, please contact your own local heritage officer. And of course, whatever you have, reuse for the future. So what we're hoping to do in Dublin City, as I said, is a local radio campaign, a social media campaign. We'll be circulating the merchandising and, of course, encouraging people to enter the awards for Heritage Week. And just to say that last year, the Heritage Hero Award was awarded to Bridget Fox for her contribution to heritage in Carlow. So I suppose it's like a Lifetime Achievement Award for heritage practitioners. She was instrumental in the development of the Columban Way Pilgrim Walk, basically in Carlow, which basically follows the footsteps of St. Columbanus. So a very important individual locally who has been rightly honoured by the Heritage Council. But then in Dublin City, our county award went to the Liberties Weavers, who are a really inspiring group of women who have basically tried to revive the weaving industry in the historic liberties of Dublin. So a really excellent project. And basically, just to finish up, you can get me and my colleague Abigail at heritage@dublincity.ie. For all the other heritage officers, go to the Heritage Council website and under our Work with Others section, or indeed just scan the QR code there. So wish you all the very best of luck in your programming of Heritage Week events and look forward to talking to you in due course. Bye.